Oh, we're rolling. Well, this is exciting. We're at the Austin Film Society parking lot party here at South by Southwest. It's an annual tradition. I feel like it's a who's who of the Austin film scene. Wouldn't you say that, Ben?
I would say that. I think that's an accurate description.
We're missing out on the festivities by standing out here talking to people, but I don't mind.
I don't either. We're working the party. I think that's what this is called.
That's right.
We're actually standing right across from a Rolls Royce, which feels strangely out of place in a way. I don't know if it's apropos or not apropos, but...
Except is that a 70s Rolls Royce? So then maybe it's...
It is a Dookie Brown, 1977, kind of cheapo Rolls Royce.
Rolls Royce that is for sale.
It is for sale.
So actually that does feel very Austin in a way, yeah.
Exactly.
Like,
Someone rolled in here in the 70s and they never left. On your left.
You're listening to Doc Walks with Ben and Keith.
Who are we here with, Keith?
Ben, let me introduce you to my old friend, Cassie Hay. And when I say old friend, it's not that she's old, it's just that we've been friends for a while.
You're old.
That's true. Yes. Cassie and I have some overlapping background, both in New York and here in Austin. And the one day that we ever worked together was on a film that she directed that I was a stand-in camera guy way back in like 2014, maybe?
Yes, it's still one of my favorite stories.
Tell me the story.
Because it was a little on the fly. You came in, we were on the UT campus, and this interview subject walked in and took the cowboy hat right off your head.
You were wearing a cowboy hat, Keith.
I don't know why.
And he put it on his head.
That's hard.
And I was like, ooh, that is a power move. That's a Texas power move right there.
Is it? Yes. Yeah. Did you have to immediately go have a duel?
I shrank. Yeah, I shrank in my boots. He took the boots off my feet. My toes curled up.
He stole all your cattle.
It was Dick DeGuerin, legendary Texas lawman or lawyer.
Yes.
Dick DeGuerin.
You just let him do that. Yeah. You have to just let him take your hat.
It wasn't my set. If I was the director, I think I might have put up a little bit of fight. But I was there and trying to do a good job for Cassie. And so it was up to her to defend my honor.
And so what were you interviewing him for? You were making a movie?
Yes, it was a movie called The Liberators, and it was at South by Southwest in 2016, same time as Tower, so it was kind of a nice like full circle moment. You came in and saved my bacon to do that interview. But
That's a great expression, by the way, save my bacon.
I'm just throwing out the countryisms, but it was a great interview, and he had this great quote for the trailer, which was, sometimes good people do bad things, but that doesn't make them bad people.
Wow.
I was like, oh man.
That was a good impression.
As he said it, I was like, oh, this is it. So anyway, it was really fun, and yeah, here we are.
And you're here with a new movie, correct?
I am a supported filmmaker this year, which is really exciting. Yeah.
And you said you're a supported filmmaker with Austin Film Society. What does that mean?
So we got a development grant for a feature film. So that means, which is just amazing, that it just allows us the opportunity to really explore their story, build it out, try to make it into a feature, get it to our reps, try to get some juice behind it. So yeah, they've been really wonderful, and we talk about how to solve problems, and I just can't believe that it's another wonderful thing that AFS provides. So.
All right.
Well, thank you for doing this. Yeah, go enjoy the party, and we'll see you around South by.
So nice to talk to you all.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
This is my good friend Tracy Frazier. Ben, do you know Tracy?
Yes, I know Tracy. Hello, great to see you. How are you doing? How's South by treating you?
I'm doing great. I'm actually been slammed, so I don't know how much I'm going to be doing during South by, but...
What are you slammed with? What are you doing?
I did a little bit of a pivot from documentary to the world of games.
Well, but that's interesting though, because Austin is a hotbed of the gaming industry in a pretty unique way that is building momentum more and more. So tell us about that. What are you doing?
The thing is, and I'm in the finance, accounting, running a studio from here that's based in LA.
Was it a hard decision making this pivot from documentary filmmaking to the world of video game moguling?
No, because of the team. So I'm more of a, like, if they're kind, I will go there. And I got that from Kat Candler.
Oh.
So that was 20 years ago, working on jumping out bridges and doing that with her and the team there. But yeah, you got to be kind.
You got to be kind.
You got to be kind.
Agree.
In fact, they interviewed me on the treadmill 20 years ago, and they were like, "Are you nice?" And I was like, I think so.
They ask you that?
Yes.
In an interview?
Absolutely.
I'm going to steal that. We should start asking people if they're...
Are you nice?
Are you nice? And can you get shit done? That's right. So,
Well, 1 out of 2 ain't bad.
Tracy, you've been a long time South by Southwest attendee.
yeah.
She's been rocking and rolling all over Austin since at least the mid-90s. What advice do you have for people we might run into? Not us, we're old-time South by Southwest folks as well. But what advice do you have for newcomers?
Hydrate. Take it slow. Maybe give yourself a little bit of a pep talk of what your purpose is.
Yeah, wow.
And then... Oh my God.
This is the second time that Rolls Royce has been hit.
When that one's a lot worse.
And
than the
that
first one.
one's way worse. I
Well,
think
he's
this guy just
connected.
bought a 77 Rolls
I
Royce.
think he's connected to it, like he can't get loose.
Oh no. Or was it a 76?
It is a 75.
Or 75. Jeez.
Loose.
Like a fine wine.
Oh boy.
A fine brown wine that is parked in a really unfortunate place.
Really bad place.
Oh wow.
Oh, this poor guy. Oh no.
Don't worry, it's just a Rolls Royce.
God.
He actually liked that joke. I would have hated you in that moment, but he smiled. So you got to laugh.
Because you know why? I'm nice. And I get shit
Nice
done.
and you get shit done. That's right.
Oh my God. I think that's where we ended. That was a great. Thank you so much for doing this.
Of course.
Yeah.
This is Bart Weiss approaching. And you can always recognize Bart because he's got his signature red frame glasses, his shock of white hair, and a big smile, a hearty laugh. When I saw you across the street there, I said, there's a living legend walking towards us. It is Bart Weiss. You can't talk about filmmaking in Texas, at least since 1980 something, without talking about Bart and his role up in Dallas, running multiple festivals, but primarily Video Fest is the festival that you've really championed.
Yes.
For how many years? What is that fest like, and what do you have to say about it?
So I ran for 34 years, and then there were some years when I splintered off an experimental festival, and then I splintered off a documentary festival called DocuFest. But yeah, it was a lot of fun because I could show things I wanted to show. I didn't have anybody who could say no. I didn't have anybody on my board who would say, no, you can't show that for whatever reason. And I was able to champion a lot of works that I really loved. And because of doing that festival, I got to meet so many wonderful people.
Yeah.
Like Keith and
Well, and I think you showed some of my early short films. I'm sure you don't remember, but I moved here in 2002 and played quite a few films at your festival. And
my God.
I remember that was always like a sort of a destination. And you'd meet all kinds of very interesting other filmmakers and see lots of mind-blowing work. And so I love that you started, I don't know if putting Dallas on the map is the right way to say it, but like you started something that's very unique, that feels very like of a place. And Dallas has now become, with guys like David Lowery and Sailor Bear being there, Dallas has become something of a film city.
We showed David's first short film called Lullaby, and I think we may have the only copy
Wow.
on a 3/4-inch tape.
Oh boy, you hear that, David Lowery? That's right.
I hope he has one, but I know that we do. And maybe he doesn't
great.
want it. It's a great film. It's wonderful.
Awesome. That's so cool. So, you know, one of the things we talk about is the state of documentary film, and you have an interesting angle on that as somebody who has run a festival for 34 years. What are you currently seeing as being the state of doc film?
Well, like most things in life, it's the best of time and the worst of time. It's the worst of time. It's really hard to get on a streaming service or distribution, right? So the feature documentary, the one best documentary, has no distribution.
Which is No Other Land,
Yes.
correct? Yeah.
No Other Land. Really wonderful film. It's playing in theaters, but they're booking it themselves. Like, what kind of world are we in where the documentary feature winner at the Academy Awards has no distribution? And you're in this place where if your film does not have a celebrity or about true crime, you're probably not going to get on a streaming service, and you're probably not going to get distribution. But yet, there's a gazillion documentaries being made, and everything else, like A lot of them are not good, but some of them are incredibly awesome. But the other thing I think is really important, and this is something I've a vested interest in, I just wrote this book about how to make films with mobile phones. And mobile filmmaking, I've been doing these workshops all over the country. And to me, what this is able to do is to make sure that anybody can make a documentary. If you use the Blackmagic camera app and you learn how to get good sound and you do a bunch of other things that you can easily learn. But more importantly, and I think this is what the real great thing about mobile filmmaking is, you need less crew, which means you can have much more intensity in what you're doing. So if I don't have a sound person and a gaffer and a DP, and it's just me and you having a conversation, I can get something completely different.
Absolutely, it's more intimate, for sure.
I love hearing you say that, Bart. That is my personal approach to filmmaking. We don't use phones, although I have been known to sneak a few iPhone shots in. But I totally agree that the more layers of institutional, quote-unquote, help you add, the further you get from an intimate personal connection.
And also in narrative film, there's this shot, a still image of Soderbergh directing High Flying Bird. And it's just him and his actor in a gym with a phone on a tripod. And if you're an actor and there's nobody else in the room but you and the director, like, you can get to different emotional space,
Yes.
right? Now, I'm not saying it's right for every project, but Soderbergh and there are other people who've done pretty well, including somebody who just won an Academy Award. This is not like a fringe thing anymore.
Right. Well, as somebody who, like I said, has sort of created something that had a huge impact on our community, thank you very much, and thank you for taking the time to do this.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
And now I got to run to do a Q&A.
Go do a
Awesome.
Q&A.
Go do it.
Enjoy the fest.
Hey, I will. Thank
see you
you.
soon.
Great to see you, Bart. So Andrew, you and I are just meeting each other. Tell me who you are and what you do. Yeah, thanks. Nice to meet you.
My name's Andrew Saunderson, and I'm the editor of CREEDE USA, which is here at South by Southwest, and I'm a nonfiction film editor.
Awesome. We've heard multiple people talk about CREEDE and how they're very excited to see it.
That's amazing.
I'm going to see the film tomorrow night, and I'm very excited because I've been hearing these great things about it, and I've been hearing about it a couple years ago from Kahani Cooperman, the director. Shortly after she got started, we had a conversation around what her goals were for it. And then I've heard a little bit from your composer, our mutual friend, Osei Essed, who I know always makes beautiful music and always makes the films he's on better. Certainly he's done that on my films. And so I'm excited to be his guest at the screening tomorrow night.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, excited that you guys are going to be there.
Where are you in town from?
From Brooklyn, New York. Originally from Seattle, Washington.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I've been in Brooklyn for 10 years now.
Excellent. And as somebody not from Austin, how do you see the Austin film scene?
The Austin film scene?
Yeah.
I feel connected to it through being inspired by independent cinema, and particularly Slacker and El Mariachi, and like growing up more in that vein of things, and then seeing the arts festival support of the arts throughout the years that particularly the festival has, I think, inspired a lot of, which just has been so exciting. And so I always feel like when I'm down here, it just feels like a great community. It feels like creative people who want to be inspired, who want to inspire each other and get things going, make things happen. Yeah, it's always warm and lovely down here.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah. And so this is the world premiere at South
The world premiere, on Sunday, March 9th. Is that right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Does that sound right?
Excellent. And how long have you been working on the film?
So I started in February of 2024. And so we cut pretty much up to December. So we were going for a while. We had a couple downtimes there, but it's a complex film. There's a lot of characters, a lot of different storylines. We're all really happy with how it came together in the time that it took to come together.
As an editor who works with different directors, I'm always so curious about the relationship between an editor and a director, and kind of where one begins and one ends. When you're watching a finished product and you see a great sequence, or you see an overarching kind of structure that really speaks to you, it's impossible to know as an audience member whether that's the director's vision being enacted, or if that's an editor coming in and reshaping a big gelatinous mess. What is your role when you're working with a new partner, a new collaborator, a new director? How do you establish that relationship and that rapport?
I try to get to know them and try to get a sense of what they're trying to achieve artistically, creatively, and the type of story that they're trying to tell. I ultimately am trying to service that and bring as much creativity and help as I can. In nonfiction editing, I usually think that there's a lot of writing involved. And so trying to bring that aspect of where I can come in and say where we're trying to get to, like how we achieve that goal. And so it's just working hand in hand with the director to figure some of that stuff out. Sometimes it is just going in and being like, I'm going to try something like with what you have presented, but this might be out of left field, but maybe this might not work at all. It might be completely outside of it, but it might inspire something new for us to go off of, which it usually does, even if it doesn't make it into the film. But with Ahani and CREEDE USA, this is our 6th project together. We know each other so well at this point. I have a strong sense of what she has in mind and how she wants to tell a story. And so I'm ultimately trying to achieve that in the approach.
Awesome. Amen. Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much for giving us some time.
Thanks, guys.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Really good to meet you.
Awesome.
Who are we standing here with, Keith?
To me, it's not a festive festival if I don't get a chance.
See what he did there? That's the kind of verbal trickery that you can look forward to in this interview.
He's flexible that way.
James Faust is the bestival at the festival.
Oh,
You gave me just enough time. Seriously, we're here at South by Southwest, and I've had wonderful experiences at South by Southwest. But there is one programmer in the entire nation, in the entire world, who somehow has said yes to every film I've ever submitted to a film festival. And that is because the very first short film I ever made was programmed by James at the Santa Monica Film Festival in 2001?
Yeah, 01 or 02.
Oh, yeah, maybe 2002. And then I've made 4 features since then, all of which have played here at South by, but all of which have also played at James Premiere Festival up in Dallas, the Dallas International Film Festival. This is James Faust, Film Festival Programmer Extraordinaire, and good friend.
Hi, thanks. I'm shocked and happy, and I'm feeling a little humble. I could turn purple right now. That's a good intro. Thanks.
Purple
Steve.
with humility.
That's right. I think in spite of having poor taste, we want your opinion here about, I don't know how much Keith told you, but we're doing a podcast about the state of documentary business, about what it's like to be a working filmmaker.
Okay.
In your case, what it's like to have a festival right now in this environment. So give us an overview. What are you thinking about the state of documentary film right now?
I can actually say that in the 20 years I've been doing programming, from the Deep Ellum, Santa Monica, Asian film festivals, Austin Film Festival, Dallas, AFI Docs, at this point in time, I've never seen more documentary films being made, created than ever. It has been, the amount of content has been shocking to me. And I won't say that the artistic merit of all the documentaries, because there's so many outlets for where to go. So the diversity of the content is something that slows down. What we're looking for at our festival is different than what other people are looking for. And so the things that I've been seeing, there's a lot of things that are in the television world. Like, this is not, I don't think this is a feature. I think this is something that you're looking to make a TV show out of. And they just happen to submit it because of the way the lower thirds are set up or whatever. It's just seeing that. So what I've seen a lot more is people making more content and submitting it to festivals as if it's a festival film. And I think some of the things that are more television end up playing more where they're locally centered. For instance, like, oh, there's a great story about a homeless shelter in San Antonio. Yeah, it's a pretty cool movie, but it seems very San Antonio centric.
Right.
And so the content is there, but the filmmaking seems a little bit, so product seems to be not a problem.
That's really interesting. I wonder how much of that is as social media's influence, because it's almost like you're expected to be documenting and posting and telling stories about your life, and as younger people are coming up, maybe
What's a
that's
lot of that?
rubbing off, and like that's leading to more documentary content.
I think, yeah, but everything from true crime to just reality television. I don't want somebody should do a study on this and go back to when the first big strike happened, and then we have this rage of reality television that came out beyond Survivor, and you have all these house shows and everything. I just think that, and people growing up on that as well, because that's what we were watching. There wasn't a lot of scripted TV for a year or 2 years, and just this barrage of these products. And like, oh, I'm watching TV. What? Yeah, I'm watching Real Housewives of Guatemala. Okay. Like, that's it, but they're watching that thing, and so I think that translates into, I can do that. I can make a show about this. I'm gonna make a show about people going on blind dates, and it's just blah, and all that, and then they turn that into submitted films for film festivals, which is just mind blowing. I don't know what you're thinking. You should go talk to Netflix or put that on Prime yourself.
That's so interesting because a lot of you, as you might guess, a lot of people's answer to that question can be doom and gloom sometimes about like funding being hard to get and eyeballs being hard to reach and people being distracted by their phones and that sort of thing. But in a way, you could look at your answer as being like, this is a sort of golden age in a way of documentary. I know you're saying it's more maybe quantity than quality, but but it's interesting that there's that level of quantity.
Yeah, it is. And I just think that there's almost too much, and I don't think it's hard to find a place to find what you want to find. Like, I don't think eyes are a problem. I think in the business side of it, I think it's who's ever investing or wherever you're streaming from, like the monetization of those eyes. And I think that seems to be the difference. I think people are watching things. I still think people are sadly making money making the things that people are watching because the back end is not very great. Oh yeah, we'll take your thing and you're just happy to get it sold and happy to get it seen. Yeah. But that might not put bread on the table.
You're basically describing every experience I've ever had with a distributor.
Yes.
And when I talk to filmmakers nowadays, one of the things the way that I can make sense of it is it feels like the film business is where the music business was about 10 years ago when Spotify came around.
Oh, wow.
And all of a sudden everything is expected to be free, so why should we pay for it? Why do we buy a record when I can just subscribe to Spotify and it's free, or Apple Music, or pull it up on YouTube? And I think, if you look at the analytics, people go home now and they watch YouTube, which is hard for me to understand as somebody who doesn't do that. I'm always amazed by those people, or the how-tos, like the guy who will teach you like some very specific niche thing. Like the fact that they took the time to do that and post it is mind-boggling.
I repaired my washer and dryer. Going to YouTube and said, all right, this is the model number, this is it. And somebody has gone out there and found that specific random model and built it.
And so I don't think those things are competing with what we do for a living. They may be competing for the time that people are allotting in their day to take in media. And so in that way it is in competition, but they're not trying to scratch the same itch. They're not doing long form storytelling. They're not saying, let's have an emotive, empathetic human exchange.
Yeah.
They're saying, in my mind, they're competing with the newspaper. It used to be you wake up in the morning and your dad, before he went off to work, might read most of the newspaper. It might take an hour and a half, and that was like an hour and a half in his day, and it was consumed and discarded. The next day there's another newspaper, consumed and discarded. That to me is what those type of things on YouTube are in competition with. So I don't personally take it as an affront.
And I hear that, except for the fact that let's say they made 600 TV shows last year.
Yeah.
They're making 300 this year because people are going home and sitting on their couch and they're watching TikTok and they're watching Instagram and they're watching sports highlights on YouTube and they're not flipping on A&E networks and watching whatever the latest TV show is. And so that is having a very real effect on not exactly what we do, but it's certainly impacting it. And things like I ran a Hulu original show, and all signs pointed to season 2. All our analytics were above expectation, and they basically didn't renew it because they decided to cut $1 billion from their budgets, and they're not the only ones doing that. So all of LA and the people I know there who work in TV and nonfiction are in free fall because of this new societal shift. So I hear you, but I
that's very
respectfully
real.
disagree.
No, that's very real. You have much more, and I'm just talking out of my ass here, so I'm happy to probably edit this out.
But I'm curious, as somebody who programs film festivals, runs film festivals, like how do we bridge those gaps? Because in a way, they're the same thing, right? Like it's storytelling, it's documenting, it's like I'm waiting for the synthesis, and I'm excited for what the new version of the morphing version of documentary is going to.
I don't know, I think there needs to be a different model and expectations. So, like, why are you making this film? Why are you doing this? And what is your end game?
That's great. Oh, what a great answer. Well, let's get back to some of those filmmakers and go party with them.
Thanks, James.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. I want you to introduce yourself and tell us what you do and what the Film Society does, like you would be talking to a class full of students, because I think a lot of people who hopefully will listen to our podcast may not be familiar with how important and pivotal the Austin Film Society is.
Yeah, my name's Rebecca Campbell, and I'm the CEO of the Austin Film Society, and I've been in this role for 27 years, and at the moment we're celebrating our 40th anniversary, believe it or not. So the Austin Film Society, all week long, as we've gotten ready for South by Southwest and we've done our big annual gala, the Texas Film Awards, all kinds of people have been just like testifying and talking about how AFS has changed their lives. And I've heard people say, if you could just use one word to describe AFS, and one of them said community. And they said that was the way they were able to find their people, was through AFS when they moved to Austin.
Rebecca, what makes Austin Film Society what it is?
For starters, just hanging in there. Because you know how it is, you could see all the things that could happen and that you want to do and that you could do. But you have to hang in there for the iterations of it, because you don't just buy something like this, you build it. And so really what makes AFS what it is, it's still true. Our founder, Richard Linklater, who just wanted to show films and help filmmakers, and it just built from there, but that's always been the North Star.
It comes across, and as Ben said, he's one of those people, I'm one of those people. Austin Film Society started giving production grants right around the time I was in college and undergrad, and it was actually the first grant I'd ever heard about for filmmaking, and the fact that it came from the work of a filmmaker like Linklater was just another of the many steps of inspiration that his career and what the Austin film scene in the 90s presented to me as an emerging filmmaker. And then over the last 20 years, receiving some of those grants, being a part of the committee that chooses grants, working in and around the world of the society, it's offered what you just said, community. And when you come to this party, you're going to recognize 20 or 30 faces, and it's people from all levels in our industry, people who are going to be on the marquee at the Paramount this week, and people that are struggling to get their first film out of the computer and onto any screen. You juggle all that as a CEO.
Wait, I want to tell you something that reminded me of something what you just said. That reminded me. So I went to the University of Texas at Austin to learn documentary filmmaking, and it was brutal. It took me 5 years to get my MFA. I went through 2 learning curves, because first it was linear, then it was nonlinear. And it was somewhat humbling, but I got my documentary made. It was a really cool story about a dying mining town in Oklahoma. And so then I did not know what I was going to do. And then the Austin Film Society needed somebody, and I already had a nonprofit management background. So I reluctantly went to the interview just thinking, I'll see what this is. And I immediately just fell in love, and I knew I'd found my people. And before I started the job, I don't know why, but I handed Richard Linklater my film, my 30-minute film, and he responded to me and said, I watched your film, and he told me the things that he liked about my film. And I just realized what you said about people at all levels, that is a real thing in the documentary film community and in the AFS community. And not all of us are like destined to become marquee names. Eventually I found my passion in being behind the scenes and helping really talented, funny, cool people like yourselves get their stories out there. But yeah, we don't know where we're going to end up, but just taking that step and jumping in and doing it is the thing. And I like to think that AFS encourages that.
Rebecca, thanks for this party. Every year we were talking about it. It is the kickoff to South by Southwest. It's a way for people who don't have a film in the festival or who can't afford a badge to get what makes South by so exciting, which is a celebration of film, a celebration of community, and it's a reminder of what we love about AFS. And it's always a beautiful day here in the parking lot at Austin Public, so thanks for a great party. Do you want to talk to us? Or?
Yes, come on, my wizard. You have to do this.
What are you talking about?
What the fuck?
So we're here, we're talking to people about basically the state of the Austin film community, what the AFS party means to you each year.
I think that this event in particular, I tell people who are visiting filmmakers, like part of the indie or doc crowd, they've got to come here. I think it's a great place where all the people can gather, and it's got that Austin vibe to it. This is like sort of a street party. And so people are comfortable with each other, so the people from out of town become comfortable as well. You know, if you're from LA or something, you're just not used to events like this. You know, it's more competitive, people are in their own niches and whatever. Now here, all different kinds of filmmakers know each other, like each other, work on each other's shit.
And
Yeah,
so
yes.
for those of people who don't know who we're talking to,
Mike Blizzard,
Mike
local
Blizzard.
Boston-based producer.
Let me help you out. Mike Blizzard started as a political operative, man about town. He has produced documentaries. He's directed his own documentary. He produces frequently with Richard Linklater. Mike, we're going to let you go in just a second. This party is always such a big deal. You mentioned it yourself. You bring people from out of town when they come here.
Yeah.
I mean, South by Southwest brings in hundreds of thousands of people from all around the world, but this is the Austin film party.
Yeah.
What does the world not know about the Austin film community?
I mean, the biggest thing I kind of alluded to earlier is just there's not really competition. It's all collaboration. And so if an Austin filmmaker is doing well, that's good for every other Austin filmmaker. You know, a rising tide lifts all boats. In other places, in New York and Los Angeles, people of course don't see it that way. It's a more cutthroat industry and business. And so I think that comes from the top a little bit. I think Linklater and Rodriguez and stuff, they've always been these creative, want to do it their own way, by their own rules type of people. And of course, they're the sort of twin titans of the modern era of film in Austin, I guess. And I think that trickles down, that everyone, like, that's our ethic here.
Yeah.
You know, that's how we do it. And people are just like, oh my God, everyone's so friendly. Everyone, you know, and you give everyone advice. You guys know we all show each other our films so that you can critique it and tell us what we've missed and how we're too close to it and we're not seeing the problems. And that's like, I don't think that happens in other places. You have to go pay test audiences or whatever to do that.
We could have been getting paid this whole time?
So we're here with Karen Skloss, who's filmmaker extraordinaire, band leader, drummer,
It's
Editor,
an egalitarian
artist.
band.
and no leader.
It's marriage corps.
It's-
You guys know how.
It's yes. You and your husband Sandy are both in the band Skloss. And you just had a record release party, right?
Yes, yesterday. Record came out yesterday. Our debut album
Congratulations.
on Fuzz Club.
Fuzz Club. Okay.
Yeah.
And how'd it go? How was
It
the?
was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now we're just gonna play 5 more shows and a showcase on Friday.
Amazing.
It's old school South by Southwest.
That is.
Yeah, it is. This is my first South by Southwest. Well, no, not first one, but in a while as a musician instead of a filmmaker.
It's okay. Karen, we're here at the Austin Film Society party. What does this party mean to you as a local filmmaker? So that long history of relationships at South by. What makes this such a fun party?
It's a reunion every year. It's the best. And the Film Society is one of those things that is at the heart of our success as a community in Austin. And I feel like that, and then also just that there were the right amount or the perfect kind of group of filmmakers that decided to nest here. Everybody knows the folks, but I'll also add Paul Steckler in the doc world and attracting all these people. So we just have had this like amazing community growing up here, and AFS is like the watering hole. It's
That's
like
a great way to say it.
we can all come, and some of them are adult beverages, but we can all hang out and catch up, and people who are coming through town who are a part of our family, we all get to reconnect. And then there's also so much tremendous talent coming through all the programs and the services, and then even just the film festival who are attracted. So it's become something, it's really snowballed.
Yeah.
It's one of the greatest artistic nonprofits in the country, I think, now.
Yeah, so many people envy the Austin Film Society. When, as a filmmaker, you tell somebody you live in Austin, that's like often what they want to talk about.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And we're so privileged that we were here when it was first being put together, or like we weren't here 40 years ago, but I feel like we were the first like pipsqueaks.
Yeah.
You know?
First class of
Yeah.
AFS. Yeah. Yeah.
The Muppet Babies.
Maybe Garbage Pail Kids in your.
That's probably correct.
Let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up.
My voice is going. You gotta.
I was like, are you okay?
Your ride is waiting for you. The party's over. Yeah, let's.
Turn off the lights.
The party's over.
Yes, this has been an awesome day. We set out to go do kind of man on the street interviews at South by Southwest, and we said we're going to go to the AFS party as kind of one part of that. But this feels like it's a whole episode. It feels like the AFS party celebration of the community here in Austin is an episode unto itself, and I think maybe Karen just named it The Watering Hole.
Hey, I love that.
Well, it's pretty hilarious to drive up and see you guys doing this, I have to say.
Yeah.
It really gave me a good chuckle.
Oh, good. Yeah. Seeing me look like a huge nerd with a fanny pack on and headphones.
We said we're gonna go to the party. We don't want to feel like those dipshits at the party are like working and trying to make something out of nothing. We'll grab one or two people off to the side. No one will even notice.
And here we are.
I was like, that's one way to get invited to the party.
Now you know our secret. That's right. Well, thank you for doing this, Karen.
Yeah, it's great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you too. All right, so that was like basically all of our friends here in Austin that we just talked to at a party.
Well, it was all of our friends, and given a new context via our good friend Karen Skloss, when she said this place is like the watering hole, which I never thought of it that way, but I am kind of like an old caribou who like saunters down to the water's edge.
I've been saying that about you for years. Keith's just an old caribou. I was thinking of it more as like sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name.
It's something that strikes me whenever we do this podcast is like when you go to that party and you look around, there's a dozen people at this party that should be hosting their own filmmaking podcast. Mm-hmm. These folks had a lot to add. I'm glad we got a chance to talk with them. Your voice is sounding a lot better.
Thank you. I'm feeling much better now that South by is behind us. I love it, and every year it beats me up. But I hope you guys like it. It was a lot of fun to make.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys checking out this episode. Of course, we also released an episode with John Sloss this week, and he's got insights into the media landscape and the 90s indie film boom that inspired both of us so much in the early parts of our career. And so check that episode out. And then join us next week where Ben and I go on a walk, just the two of us. We're going to be moseying through Hyde Park here in Austin. And we have a lot to say about
the modern media landscape. So tune in for that. We were wandering down back alleys and getting lost in Hyde Park and getting lost in philosophical thought. So hope you guys enjoy.
Yeah, that's going to be a video episode 2, which we are, slowly porting over to. It looks like all of these episodes are going to be kind of up on YouTube for those who like to watch when they walk.
And for those of you who just prefer to listen, you can find us at Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
iHeartRadio, apparently.
I mean, who knows? We could be playing at truck stops right now, Keith. Our reach is long.
Docwalks. Docwalks is produced and edited. It's created by, it's hosted by me, Keith Maitland, and this guy,
Ben Steinbauer, and Keith's company produces it, Go Valley. My production company, The Bear, also helps out, and we have a lot of help from
Juliana Rios, who is our new edit assistant, and she's doing a great job over there in the edit room. We've also got original music from Sam Billen and Primary Color Group. And if you're watching the show open, thanks to Josh Allen, who gave us a little bit of VFX help on the front side. Anyway, that's us. Thanks for being you. We'll catch you next time on
Docwalks. Follow us at Docwalks Pod on Instagram, X, and YouTube.